supposed to leave it because this is actually the first exhibition that we've opened since 2020. Amazing, it's been a little run. And what better than something with the power of words? Actually, for myself, I got just real brief about the MC, which I find myself tonight. I started working at the Patterson Free Public Library. I was a page back in 1980, and I got to be honest, my exposure to poetry was always putting those darn little books away. Again, you all know the Dewey Decimal. Most books are about an inch or so thick, and you can read it on the full number on the back. Well, poetry books are like 3/8 of an inch if you're lucky. Most of the time they couldn't fit on this one, always on the side, always too many. And I was always trying to shove too many into the shelf, and if you got one too many, they would like shoot out. So I never forget it was 811, that is American poets, which is a good mistake. And I got to show you my shirt, which was given to me by a poet. Now, I am not a poet yet. What's funny is everybody asks, oh, you're a poet, oh, you're a poet. I'm like, why would you say that? I wear the same colors as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Or I wear my jersey, nobody says, oh, you play for the Steelers? Same color. So maybe that would impress you as a football player. Speaking about the library, Patterson Free Public Library is the first public library in the state of New Jersey. And one of our former Board of Trustees was actually Louis Ginsburg. Of course, everyone knows his son, Allen Ginsburg. But Louis Ginsburg was a member of our board for many years. I remember in 1985, for the 100th anniversary of the Free Public Library, they actually had Eugene Brooks. I was like a little disappointed at first, being I'm only a kid. And I'm thinking, oh, I thought Allen Ginsburg was going to come. But then he said, no, his brother's going to come. So I'm like, well, where's his brother? And I was standing right next to him. Eugene Brooks is Allen Ginsburg's brother. But he wanted to make sure that, you enjoyed his poetry on his own merit, and not his name. Now, I have a great pleasure to introduce our senator from the 35th Legislative District, Nellie Poe. But whenever I think of our state senator, back in 1980 or so, she was on our Board of Library Trust. And she's been, needless to say, a big fan of Patterson. She's got such a long career. We've been, since 2011, our state senator, from back in the 90s, BA. I mean, your resume is tremendous. And your support for the arts, children, immigrants. I mean, I think you're amazing, though. I mean, I truly mean that. And it is my sincere pleasure to introduce you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I was a little concerned this morning with the weather as well. I was hoping that since I have an event later tonight and it's a gala, so I was hoping I didn't have a problem with my hair with the rain coming down. I'm like, oh no, and then I come out and beautiful sunshine. So God is with us for sure, and it's a wonderful, beautiful day as a result of that. But thank you so very much, really. I really appreciate it, Director. We go back a long way, a long time, so it's really wonderful. I was just here yesterday, actually, so we have, the Patterson Museum is used for so many wonderful, wonderful events. I always enjoy coming and appreciating not only the art, the beauty, and the history, really. I mean, when you walk through those doors, you know that there's a lot happening, in these four walls here. So it's a wonderful opportunity for me to come back today. I want to start, and since it's a poet and poem, a special event, I thought I'd write my remarks to reflect clearly that. So I'm probably rusty at this, so forgive me, but I am going to try. So before I do, my name is Nellie Poe. I'm the state senator for the 35th Legislative District. I have the great honor to represent 5 towns. I was born and raised in Patterson. First, let me just say that I raised my 2 children here, lived here practically all my life, and until my children got old enough where they started their own family, and the rest is history. But I've been honored and privileged to represent the New Jersey State Legislature for the past 25 years. I was an assembly person for 14 years and in the Senate for the past almost 12 years. So it's been my sincere honor to represent our great city. So I want to start by will know this perhaps even better than I do, but I want to start with some lines, as we all know, as the great William Carlos Williams, author of the epic poem titled Patterson, once reminded us, "It is difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there." As I said, like, that's the extent of my poetry, by the way. As I said, I'm very happy to be here today to take part in this reception, marking the beginning of the National Poetry Month, and also to recognize the vision and ambition of the Patterson Museum in putting together this wonderful exhibit, Patterson's Poetry, Voices from the Silk City, which will honor all those artists who have come through Patterson and have incorporated its sights, sounds, and people into their poetry. I would especially and particularly like to thank Giacomo Di Stefano, our longtime museum director, as well as Talina Lachelle Queen. And I know that she will be coming, but thank you so very much. She's very well represented here by having you represent as the vice president. So Patterson, it's part of the Word Seed Incorporated for the collaboration and presenting this event. This month-long celebration is really something to be recognized. And it's wonderful that we're all here to attend and enjoy not only by this event, not only by Patterson residents, but by all those who might have interest in the city's history or its poetry and poets, or want to further explore how the voices and art of those poets have been influenced and shaped by the city. I'm excited to take part in this event, which will recognize and remember the many varied voices that have come out of Patterson, including those who were born here, visited here, or came here to work or reside for such a short while. They are all part of Patterson's conversation, the Patterson story. April was first designated National Poetry Month in 1996 when the Academy of American Poets deemed it as such in order. Among other things, to encourage the reading of poems and to encourage support for poets and poetry. Indeed, since the city's founding in 1792, Patterson has been home to a rich diversity of poets and their poems, from concrete poets to spoken words, from Allen Ginsberg to William Carlos Williams, to seeding writers and words explorers involved today in word seeding, which promotes the idea that writers of all age and backgrounds are also readers who can be impacted by poetry. Happily, after today's program, there will be one more Patterson poetry reading, my understanding, that will take place right after this, carrying forth a tradition that has gone on in our city for decades. And from the looks of it, a tradition that will carry well into the future. That reading will feature both experienced poets as well as those just starting out, and will also include an open mic. All of these parts of a reading that can show us the power of poetry and the diversity of voices it can and should represent. I would also like to, if I may, Director, I'd like to I'm also happy to put an enthusiastic plug for the May 6th lecture that is going to take place by Kara Morris, a PhD candidate in English entitled Recovering Patterson in Patterson, where the speaker will discuss William's relationship with the city, a relationship that both grew with the poem and exceeded it. I would like to reemphasize the importance of poetry. People still read poetry, they write it, they translate it into languages heard around the world. They write and read it as students, an English instructor, as everyday workers, and even as retirees. William Carlos Williams, we remembered, maintained a full medical practice as he wrote some of his most recognized poems. The bottom line is, people are still moved when they listen to poems spoken or recited. They need its rhymes and rhythm and rhymes. They need its outrageousness, and they need its quiet. Above all, they need its connection and its ability to slow us down. In closing, let me just say thank you so very much for inviting me and allowing me to just have this very small party and welcoming, and also congratulating the Patterson Museum for doing its part, going that extra mile to make this year's National Poetry Month one that will not only recognize Patterson's contribution to the game, to the genre, and recognize our poets and poems of the past, but perhaps also inspire new poets of the future as they carry on this cherished, written, and spoken tradition. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen.